So, friends, welcome to this live stream. And this is actually a live stream where I would like to talk to the budding entrepreneurs and also to the startup gurus, etc. And my intention is to meet you every day, Monday to Friday, from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. only for 1 hour, where I can actually address your questions and also take up any challenges, any ideas that you have you want to bounce off. And I will also keep advising on various aspects about the business, what we should be doing as a startup community and as a specifically from India, because India has a lot to offer to the world. And my intention is to communicate and help the community by and large, so that it can be quite useful for some of these people who are basically watching my program. And I'm going to be available from Monday to Friday, 3 to 4. So don't forget, just in case if you miss my program today, join back tomorrow. All right, so to start with the discussion, what are the challenges the startup community are facing today? I think the number one challenge is the customer, in my opinion. And the whole idea of finding customer is something which we will focus today. In today's show, we will be only focusing on the customer acquisition, and because that is the biggest question in everybody's mind. And I will also tell you what is going on in the industry as we move along. And that will also give you some insights on what is going on and what new things are happening. And when you look at the customer acquisition, you can probably use those information for your benefit when you come out with your own strategy. So when we talk about customer acquisition, the first thing that comes to the mind is that whether the customer will pay me or not. I think that is where the $1 million question is for everyone. And I think many people who you basically do startups and come out with some innovative ideas, in order to fructify that idea from ideation to business generating concept, it requires a lot of planning. So getting an idea is very important. First of all, people should, people tell you that you must keep thinking about getting new ideas and what is going to run, because out of these 10 ideas, one will be a very killer idea. So getting an idea is very, very important. That is number one. I'm saying that it is most important. But getting an idea to work for your business is it's not easy. It has to go through certain step by step. And then when you take that idea through your roadmap, even before you start your organization or you start your services, the idea may undergo a total change. And by the time you implement that idea, it would have changed from what you had started. So I think that is where the problem lies, because most of the people, either they forcefully implement whatever they get as an idea and then suffer the consequences, or probably make it large. However, in the process of changing, and you may have some investors who will influence you, you may have your customers your friends and family who may influence you to change that idea. So I think that is why it is important to do a lot of brainstorming before you even start spending a single rupee on that idea. And the question that people must ask is, whether this idea, number one, there is a need in the market. And in order to find out where the need is and who will pay his good money for that idea, that is something that you need to do research. Whoever you are, I mean, you can be a very big shot, you can be a very big CEO, well established, but then if you're coming out from your corporate job and starting as a company, you must have a ready business. That means ready consumption of that idea. And that is where most of the people who are budding entrepreneurs, they tend to overlook this, and they get very emotional about their idea, and therefore they don't do a lot of brainstorming. So getting an idea off the table into the real business scenario, it requires a lot of effort. Your idea can be a very killer idea, but then you have to go through a lot of checks and balances in order to implement that idea in the first place. So now you got a great idea. You have you are convinced that there is a business, but then how you are convinced? One of the method is, if you think that for that idea there are 100 customers, you can make them to pay for that idea. So I think the focus should be, first you get an idea, then you actually start doing your research and identify those 100 customers who will pay for that idea. And this is even before you started your company. So you know that if 100 can buy, then another 200 can buy, things like that. So it's a self-replicating model. So I think that is something which is very important. Whenever you have an idea, also think where the money is coming from in order to sustain that idea as a business. And that is something which is very important. And I would like to take another 5 minutes about how you can do it, because the whole program is based on mentorship, and you can use the chat function just in case if you have any suggestions, any thoughts, or any questions. You can use the chat function and I will see your chat function immediately and respond. All right, so let's look at how will you convert your business idea into a money making idea, because still at the ideation state. I think the first thing to do is identify the best thing to do is basically look at who are your top 20 clients who will be willing to buy that idea, who are your close friends and with whom you can actually run conversations. That means you can call them and say that, hey, I've got this idea, do you think it is good, do you think your company can use it, etc. So I think that's the best thing. Not focus on 100, but at least try with 20. And once you get these 20 customers, prospects on board, and they said, yes, we need this, and that will also give you little confidence that, okay, now 20 of my people who are in my network, who are the decision makers, they have expressed their sincere opinions that they would like to pay if you develop this kind of a service or a product. All right, so now you got some start. And then when you got this start, you know that, okay, now these 20 of my close connections will invest in my business. Then you can actually extrapolate that, because I think that's 20. The first 20 customers are very, very important. If you don't have the close people, the close connection, or your network is not willing to invest in your idea, then there is no point in going forward and spend your energy in identifying other 80. Because I think that is where the challenge is. If you are able to sell to your close connections, people who know you by name, your first name and last name, it is the easiest thing to sell it to them. So I think the first thing to do is share those ideas with your prospective close connections and take their buy-in from them. Second thing is that once you've got this, majority of these people saying that, okay, fine, your idea looks interesting, let us go ahead, and if you develop the system, we will buy. Then you actually conduct some sort of a marketing activity identifying the other 100, because out of these 500 people that you know personally, you have singled out the top 20 whom you know very well, and the next 80 whom you know but you're not very confident. So you try and see if the next 500 people will be willing to pay for that, and that way you will get a clear picture whether this idea is going to sell. Because getting an idea is very easy, and since the idea is coming from within you, or you are getting inspired by leaders like Elon Musk, but it doesn't mean that if Elon Musk has been able to do this, you will also be able to do this. In fact, I read a news last week that there are some people who have been fired from Twitter by Elon Musk. They are now going to start similar service like Twitter, and they are going to call it something, some other name they are coming out with, and they are going to start that. But then it's not easy, because then Twitter will also bring in more services, and just because you have an idea and you know that you can make it big, doesn't mean that you will be successful. So until unless you have an idea for which people are willing to pay money, there is no point in going ahead with that idea and spending money on that idea. So first thing is, you get an idea, get it verified, find if there are 100 people who are willing to invest in that idea. All right, so before we move forward on this subject, I would like to also tell you what is going on in the industry. And in order to do that, let me take you to some latest information, because I think these are also very important. And in between, we will keep coming back to this discussion. I think we have covered two steps, which is getting the idea and then identifying the paying prospects before you start investing. So let me take you to the latest information which is going on in the business arena, and that is going to help us make some decisions. All right, the first thing is about Indian currency, because if you're launching your company in 2022, or if you're a startup, which a couple of years back you started your organization, then what is going on? You see, India is actually trying extremely hard to make Indian rupee a global currency. And why it is important? Because today, if you want to sell to Indians, no problem, you can sell it across India to anyone, as long as you pay the GST. The GST laws are there, and you can read it on Google. Within 20 minutes you'll know what is to be done. So within India, you are governed by the GST rules, and you have a market within India. Now you want to expand outside India, then the challenge is the payment to be received in certain currency, because other country, like for example in Africa or Middle East, they may not have, they will like to pay you in dollars. So then what will happen is, in those clienteles, they will have to first convert their local currency into dollars, which will be some X rate, and then they will send you dollars through some system like a bank transfer or a PayPal. Then you convert that into Indian rupees, so that will be a Y rate on that day. So between these for a single payment, there are two conversions already happening. Sometimes it could be more than 2, 3, 4. So because of this issue, the Indian government wants to make sure that the businesses here in India start doing business directly in Indian rupees. So they have already tied up with about 23 countries where the Indian rupee is fully convertible. You don't have to, suppose you're traveling in these Southeast Asian countries, you can actually spend in Indian rupees, and you can also collect money in Indian rupees. So it's completely convertible in those countries, and not like the previous earlier years where you have to carry dollars, and then as soon as you land, you look for an exchange bureau and then convert your dollars into local currency, and then you start. So in that process, you lose the exchange rate as well as the exchange fee in that country. So all of that is undergoing tremendous change, and that is why this information is very useful, because after this information, I would like to talk about the payments. So Sri Lankan has accepted Indian rupees for their international trade. That is a big news, and this is in addition to the 23 countries which are already having provision to use Indian rupees. And since you're running a business, it is important for you to consider this information as very valuable, because then you know exactly which market can pay me higher revenue in terms of profitability, because I don't want to lose a lot of my profits as part of the currency exchange expenses. So that is something which you can do, and this information is very valuable. I think what Indian government is trying to do is rope in about 40 to 50 countries before they declare themselves as a global currency. And Russia has also accepted Indian rupee to do trade in Indian rupees. So like this, a lot of countries are joining this particular arena, and it is opening up new markets for India, because for India, usually the market used to be UK, US number one, Middle East, UK, etc. But now, because of this additional benefit, the new markets are now opening up. And this is also going to create another avenue that for your business, you can also engage local staff, and you can pay them in without any problem their salaries, without any cross conversion, etc. Because in those countries, the Indian rupees will be acceptable, and you can also directly collect your payments from paying customers from those countries. So this is why this is very, very important, extremely important information, and this is going on. All right, let's go back to our discussion about customer acquisition. So since we talked about what changes are happening in our in our industry, so customer acquisition, now you got an idea, you got the top 100 prospects identified, and now you want to know exactly how you're going to bill them. And that is why it is important to do pricing. Now, I'm asking you to do all this analysis before you start investing in your business, because after you have invested and after you have done all this analysis, you will actually end up losing 2 to 3 months in doing this analysis. So that is waste of time, because once you have invested money in your business, you want business to start cracking and generating revenue for you. So the third most important aspect of your business is how much you're going to price your services or product for. And there are various methods. I think this is a general general problem, and that is why I'm taking this up. It's a lot of people have this confusion how much to charge. Sometimes you may charge more and customers may not be willing to pay that much. Sometimes you undercharge, that means you are losing the value. So what is the right charge for your product and services? To know that, it's very difficult. Not even the greatest gurus can tell you that your services cost exactly this much. So that requires a little bit of analysis. I think the best way to do it, since you're basically starting your business or launching a new service, the best way to do it is to do a little bit of analysis about the customer. Rather than doing your own analysis, you identify, by providing this service or this product, how much pain you are solving for the client. What is the value of that pain which you are able to solve for the client? And then you identify that, okay, fine, if I'm providing this service, I'm going to save so much money for the client. And then once you've got that rough idea of your client, then you little bit extrapolate that. And remember, I told you about identifying top 20 clients. At least do that among the top 20 clients that you have got a list of, and then identify that by using all these your services, client will save so much revenue. Because if they actually don't save revenue, they will not come to you, because the whole point of hiring you as their consultant or as their business partner is basically to save money. And if your services will not help them save that small incremental savings, then that product is not suitable for them. So your product has to show some certain value for the client. Either they make revenue or they save some revenue because of that. All right, so now you got a rough picture of one client. Use the same system and identify for next 20 clients. Now once you have identified those next 20 clients, you can do an average of how much savings each client, the top 20 clients, how much savings that each client will make in terms of if they basically buy from you, and then average it out. And then once you get an average value, take 1% of that average value, and that should be the cost of your product. That means you are giving 100% returns, ROI, with only 1% charge you are charging. So that is a thumb rule, and in my opinion, that should be the way you should be charging for your service. And now once you got this analysis done, you can work backwards and then start saying, okay, how you're going to make money. So we'll come to that, but I think this is a very important step where most of the people go wrong in terms of pricing, because people don't know how much to charge. Sometimes they say, okay, fine, they are driven by their cost, that since I'm doing this, it is costing me that much, so I'm going to apply my margin, say 50% on top of that, and then that will be my cost. But that should not be the method, because your costing can that means your costing is wrong. If nobody is willing to pay that price, your costing is absolutely wrong. So that is why it is important to do this analysis, where you identify who is the paying client and how they will pay you, and how much they will pay you, how much saving they are making. And then once you have analysis done, charge 1% of their total savings that a client is making. And that way you will have an exact picture of, if the top 20 clients are going to pay you XYZ, you know exactly that, that's the market price. And then you can say, fine, this is my price. And then from this point, you can work backwards and come up with things like how much money you need to invest in order to make money. So we will come to that, but let's go to another business information, which is important for all of us to understand. And if you have any questions, feel free to send in your comments and suggestions, or any questions about the subject that we are discussing, and I will respond to that immediately. All right, let's find out what is going on in the industry. And that is about the Twitter again. So Twitter has been in news, we know that. And why I'm discussing this, because how quickly things are changing, and that is why for any business who about which you are making a plan, you have an idea, or you want to launch a new service in a new market, then this information will give you a little bit of inspiration. So Twitter is a microblogging website. What is microblogging? Microblogging is that it allows you to write in few sentences your comment or your opinion. And that way, because it's not very complicated, you don't have to write a long para or an essay to convey what you want to say about certain development which has happened in the field. So Twitter is a very successful platform where you can write things in very short 2 sentence, something like 400 characters now, because the limit used to be 160, they have increased it to about 400. So 400 characters is sufficient to write 2 to 3 sentences, and you can convey your message. And then a lot of people get together, and they can do many things with that message. They can also tweet, retweet, basically share and reshare, like, dislike, etc. So now we know that Twitter has become very big, about 1 billion users globally, and they also they are becoming a very viable platform for advertising, etc., and also a dissemination of information. So that is the key here. Twitter is able to do that, and therefore they acquired a company called Review. That's the spelling, and unfortunately the spelling is hidden behind me, but this Review is a news platform. And therefore the review, the global news is published on Review, which is then showed to 1 billion consumers of Twitter, just like a tweet, a normal small tweet. So that is very simple to read. Instead of reading large articles, etc., the Review will break it down, all these large news, into small chunks which people like to consume quickly. And they have been running this very successfully. But after Elon Musk has taken over, which is just a couple of months back, few days, just 60 to 70 days back, now Review is going to be discontinued, simply because there is a conversation going on within Twitter that they are going to increase this character limit to about 4,000. So from 400 to 4,000. That means you will be able to not do microblogging henceforth. You will be actually writing large articles, and those large articles will be distributed across 1 billion people or probably more. So Review platform is losing its relevance in the new scheme of things. That is why review is going to be discontinued, because review used to break down a newsletter into small chunks as Twitter, which now people like you and me can do. So there is no revenue model for review. They are going to be discontinued. So this is something which is happening, and this is important for us to understand and also get inspired. What can happen if you create a small service or improvement in your business, how it can impact the other area of your business. And this is the greatest example, which is recent. The review by Twitter, which is very popular as a news platform on Twitter, is going to be discontinued in 2023. So make hay while sunshine. Continue reading review news articles till the time you can, but eventually it will shut its shop. All right, let's go back to our discussion. So now we have identified that the pricing for my product will be XYZ. After doing analysis, you should not be looking at what others are selling. You have to do your own analysis. You have to find out how much your customer is willing to pay you, and therefore you don't want to depend on what is coming in Bloomberg, or what is coming in Gartner reports, or what others are doing. That is a very wrong way of doing any sort of pricing. So once you got an idea of the pricing, you immediately come down to your brass tacks. Then you will be able to find out that if I am able to create a service, and because you're here for long term, at least 2 to 3 years or 5 years, how you're going to spread out your initial investment, and then your mid-term investment, and your after long-term investment. And then, because your price is now sort of fixed, you have a clear idea that customers will probably pay me this amount for my service, and therefore these services I will be able to charge this much in order to make money, and also in order to generate salary income for your employees, and all other expenses like transportation, your telephone, your real estate, all that you have to generate from this business. So since you know the sales price, now you can work backwards and you can do that analysis that, okay, how many units you need to sell now in order to make money. So let's say if your expense is 50% of that X price, then the next 50% should be your profit. And in order to make the profit, how many times you have to replicate your sales. And this is where the true business sense is coming in, and the reality checks is coming in. And then you will also know that how much is your expense, how many employees you need to hire, and after doing all this analysis, you will actually come to know whether this is a viable business or it is not a viable business. So that is why it is important for all the business people to do this analysis even before they implement and quit their current jobs and get into some sort of startup. Without doing this 3 steps, I think it is not advisable to jump into any business, because it can end up into a lot of heartbreaks, and after investing in that business, suppose you do this analysis later, then you actually lose a lot of time, at least 3 to 4 months, and then you realize that, okay, fine, we were wrong, this idea is not sellable. So instead of doing what you do after establishing a company, do it beforehand, so that you know that you are getting into something which is meaningful, and it will carry on your career journey for at least 2 to 3 years. You know that you have a projections for next 2 to 3 years. So this is something that is very, very important. Number 3 step is to basically use the price that you have come out with and apply backwards, find out in order to produce that service how much would be your expense, and once you have identified the expense, spread it over a period of time, 6 months or 1 year, and see if you can actually generate revenue after Initially you will be spending more money, but you have to see that after 3 months, can I break even, start generating money? After 6 months, after 1 year, all that analysis you have to do even before you start your organization. All right, so this is the step number 3 that we have discussed. So we'll come to more steps about the customer acquisition, because we are sticking to that subject only in today's session. Let's go to another information of what is going on in the industry, which will change the way we think, and which will change the way we are now doing our business. Okay, so this is about the payment gateway. Since we were discussing about payment gateway, receiving payments from the customer, this is a very, very vital information. Well, what has happened is that Razorpay has been asked to pause onboarding of any new companies, any new merchants. So what is going on? And you must have seen, I don't know whether you have seen that most of the organization, most of the online, in fact, every organization in India especially, they have stopped storing your credit card numbers. So you would have set up your, for different services, the standing instructions, but then they are saying that we will be deleting your credit card as per the RBI regulations, and there is a separate process. That means your credit card or your debit card is mapped to a another number which is shared, but your credit card and your debit card is never shared on the internet. So it's a layer of security which has been mandated by RBI now, and companies who have not been able to do this small bit have been given time, basically. So Razorpay is one company which has been, it's a very harsh decision. I feel that RBI has told them not to onboard any new merchant on their very popular payment gateway platform. So this is something which is happening, and I think if you're starting your own business today in 2022, you have to know exactly how you are going to collect money and what are your options, because you are not going to send invoices like the old times and then they will do bank transfer and all that. It has to be a payment gateway based collection strategy, and things like that. So there is a limit to how much money you can collect through payment gateway, and also what type of money you can collect. So up to, if your services are below that threshold, then you have to choose some sort of payment gateway in India, and then either Razorpay or something, Google Pay or whatever. So in that case, what are the challenges these kind of players are facing, and what is going on is very important. So as I told you, the new added security layer has been added to the payment gateway, and in fact all the Googles and all these large players have already removed our credit card information or debit card information from their portals, and there is an additional layer which all the large banks have already implemented. So if your payment is happening through a large bank like ICA or SBI, then they have already implemented that additional layer almost like a couple of months back. But now Razorpay has been asked to pause on any onboarding of any new merchant till they fix this issue. So you can imagine that how important it is. Here the RBI is asking that, hey, you are not going to onboard any new customer until you fix this security layer. So that is why it is important to also understand, when you're thinking of starting your own company, how you will collect the money and what will be the cost of that collection, because any money which you are collecting for your business has a cost to it. And when we talk about cost, it is important that we should know exactly if you're keeping a finance department, what is their salary. If you're using some sort of a system to track your payables and receivables, what is the cost of that, what is the taxation, how much the payment gateway will charge you per transaction, etc. So the entire analysis has to be done before you actually launch your service in the market. And it is important, and people don't think about these things mostly. They only go very high on the idea bit only that this idea is fantastic, I like it, and so that other people also like it, so that means it must be sellable, and thousand other people will pay me money because the idea is so good. But until unless you do little bit of analysis about this idea, how this idea is going to generate money, it is very difficult to generate money, so that is why it is important to first get the idea tested. And the best way to test it is actually sit on a table, do a little bit of analysis, do a little bit of talking to certain people whom you trust, get how much money is required, how much money they will be willing to pay you, and then proceed further. So these are certain things which are very, very important. So let's move little bit ahead and find out what is going on in our industry, and what is so special that we have to learn from our industry and what is going on. All right, so this is something futuristic, and if you're starting your company in 2022, such developments may be very, very interesting for you. Now, this information is that Microsoft is bringing the real-time AI voice translation to Skype, and it will be natural sounding conversation. So imagine what will happen here. You are having a conversation using a Skype platform, and then right now you speak in English or whatever language, Spanish, and the other person has to understand that language because you are speaking, of course. But what Skype is going to bring is that on the fly, the voice will translate your words which you are speaking into some other language, and then other person can hear it in the language that he preferred. So this way, this is a killer application which Microsoft is thinking, and this will actually remove all boundaries of language. You will be able to talk to anyone in the world without knowing that language, because there will be an AI bot in between which will translate your language into that person's language on the other side. And that way, when you're running a webinar or a seminar, there may be people who will, different language countries people, they can select what language they want to hear you. You can speak in English or British English or any other language, but your translation will happen. And why it is important is that this AI will not only translate your voice on the fly live, but it will be natural sounding conversation. So it will not look like, hey, there is some bot running and it's some sort of a robot speaking. So this is something which is killer. I think this is a killer application that Microsoft is going to bring. I'm sure others like Zoom and Gmeet will also follow suit, and they will also launch the AI, because Google has a lot of investment in AI. So I think they will also bring in these advanced features to their Gmeet platform. But I believe this is killer because it will remove all boundaries, and for the first time I feel very excited that AI is going to solve the real world problem. The real world problem is that if we are talking, for example, today I'm speaking in English, but then I know that even anybody is tuning in, watching this program from Brazil or from Spain, they will be feeling very uncomfortable, or for that matter even France or from China. But with this technology, it doesn't matter. I can speak in any language, and another person can listen in any language which they prefer to listen. And that way, you can conduct a global webinar, you can conduct your conferences without even bothering about how you're going to communicate to other people, because this AI is going to convert in natural sounding language to the other party. So this is great. I think this is amazing. And I think this is inspirational stuff which important for us to know. And I think, do you think such kind of technology will help you in setting up your own business? I think this is much more helpful than your predecessors, because if you're starting your company and you have an offering, you are able to communicate to a global market. Because remember, I talked about the Indian rupee becoming global currency. There is a straight away help for startup and SME segment. And then with this kind of functionality being available in 2023, where You can sell it to any type of customers. It doesn't matter whether the customer has to know English, because just because you know English, you and vice versa. So anybody from Spain can sell his services to you. You can be in India, or you can be in US. The barrier will completely go away with these kind of services, and therefore the world which we are stepping into requires such kind of services. And so if you are starting your company, you have to think about what services you can offer to your client, which is cutting edge, which is totally new, which nobody has thought about. And that is what the idea is. So let me take you back to the first step, which was about the idea itself. So your idea is coming out from your own brain, has to carry these information which I'm sharing with you. It has to have the knowledge of payment gateways. It has to have knowledge of what is going on in the currency market, because eventually you will have to collect money using the currency. Then what is the new stuff going on in the industry? Well, I'm not talking about the augmented reality, etc., etc. I'm talking simple stuff. I'm talking about the Skype being available in with an AI built-in technology, which will translate your words into whatever language it is, and it will be natural sounding. So it's a very simple stuff. It will be actually a seamless conversion. People will not even know what is going on, and they can simply come and join. Say, for example, if you launch your webinar on something, they will simply come and join without any complexities. And the other thing is that the Skype is now getting integrated with Outlook. So it will, in nutshell, will become more or less like a Google platform, where the Google Mail is linked directly to your Gmail. So that work is also going on. The Skype will be integrated with Outlook with all these advanced features, and therefore others will follow suit, because it's a global competition. And you have to think how you can look at the market segment. Probably you can find something which runs on these platforms. You can get inspired by these informations, and you can run some sort of a plugin which runs on these platforms. So you bring in more value as compared to what Microsoft is going to provide or what Google is going to provide. So otherwise, in any other arena, whether it is manufacturing or any other education, this is going to be a killer functionality. You can train your students in any language. You are teaching maths, and you are limited by your language options, because if you know only one or two languages, then your the world that you can teach is only English or some other language. But now with this, there is no limit. You can find your student anywhere. You can teach them in any language. The student has freedom to select what language they want to select, etc. So the whole scenario is completely going to change in 2023. 2023 is a year of reckoning, in my opinion. So if you're starting your organization now, you will be affected by these changes, which are global changes, and definitely you have to keep all these changes in account even before you start your organization, because we are not talking about we are only talking about today is that how do you take your idea to reality. How do you convert your idea into reality? So we are saying that these are the things which you have to keep in mind, and one of the thing that you have to keep in mind is that whether your idea is unique, whether your idea is something which is for which people will which solves the problem, it resolves the pain point, it brings some sort of a revenue for the client, or it saves some revenue for the client. So all of these parameters have to be there, and your idea cannot function simply because you like it. So that is the whole point about having this discussion, and also sharing what is going on in the field. And these are something which are very, very important, and these are all futuristic stuff which is going on. So let's find out if there is something else going on in the field which will help us decide. Okay, So now, very important, um, this information is about the digital data protection. And all the decisions of the government in any country will be driven by this, because there is so much conversation going on your data protection. Remember, I told you about the credit card, which is also a type of a data. So payment gateways have been barred to keep the database of the consumer's credit cards. So consumer credit cards will not be saved in the database by payment gateways or Google or Microsoft. So there is a separate system to protect the identity of people. So what is happening here is that there is a new digital data protection bill, which is called the Digital Data Protection Bill of 2022. It is not yet passed in India, but it is in the making. A lot of discussion is going on in the parliament, and protection of data is going to become a very big thing in 2023. And the Digital Data Protection Bill will determine how you will basically deal with your client. What are the regulations? Can you share their emails? Say, for example, very simple thing. Can you share that person's email with a friend of yours without asking this person? I think we do it all the time. We can share each other's numbers. But with data protection bill, I think this is going to be very tough, because it will have a legal implications. Without asking me, how my friend can share my telephone numbers and email and addresses to somebody. So this is one example, which is very simple, because I think we do it all the time. This bill is also going to create a lot of issues for the app-based digital lending, which has become very prevalent, especially after the 2019, which is during the pandemic. The app-based lending started, and these lending applications are sometimes Indian applications, sometimes they are ancillaries of the Chinese companies. And what happens is that they if they are companies which are originated from outside India, then they have violated certain data laws of India, and also the KYC norms. So this is one area which is going to be very heavily affected by the new data protection bill. And I think India is not a unique country. All the leading developed countries has data protection laws, especially UK, US, Australia, and they are imposing, also EU, they are imposing these data protection laws on their businesses which are running in those countries. And EU is very similar to India. Many countries joined together. So this is also happening. So when you're actually thinking about starting your company, you have to think how you're going to protect the data which you collect from the client, because your data is important, and which you need to protect, and you will actually engage with some sort of a cyber security solution or an expert who will guide you how to protect your information about your pricing, information about white papers, presentations, etc. How to protect your websites. Well, that is given, but then people come on your website and order certain things, subscribe. How you're going to protect that information? So for that also, it is becoming more of a streamlined method, where the legal system is going to impose the data protection to be available in your website. And for that also, you need to be preparing yourself in terms of thinking about these things, because these are the things which you have to keep future proof, because you're starting your company in 2022. And if you had started your company 10 years back, none of these issues would have affected you. But today, if you start your company, all of these legal implications will be there, and you have to think about these things, because if you don't, then there could be legal ramifications. Now, there is one more thing I would like to tell you is that when it comes to video streaming, say for example, you're making a video streaming and the copyright, which is slightly different subject, but the copyright is also very important, and the content has to be original. And if there is a copyright violation, then it is a very serious matter. And even when you bring in more people in your video, they have to sign off that you have taken their consent, that you are now recording them. Even those people can be a model, so there has to be a agreement as per the law. So it is not something that you can do it very easily now. And when you are making a corporate film, or making some sort of a video and sharing, as long as in certain areas in your background, for example, certain areas that you are filming, which are protected areas, those kind of videos can also bring you in trouble. So you have to keep thinking about these things. And in today's program, we were focused mostly on the customer acquisition part of it, in the case of startup. But I will be more than happy to take your questions, and I will be live every day from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. and take any questions related to business. I'm more than happy to give mentorship on the startup and the SME segment, and also discuss things like what new we can do together to make India big. What are the ideas which we can bounce off? What are the processes? What to do, what not to do? What are the best practices and stuff like that? So I will be more than happy to help anyone who has a question, and I will respond to that person. And you can join me every day between 3 to 4. All right. So let's talk about the idea itself. So now we have in today's session, we've got idea. We got the idea. We got the analysis done that how the top customers will buy that idea. Then we also got the analysis done on how the idea will bring money, revenue for me. Then we have done the analysis that in order to implement this idea into real service or a product, what will be your expense, how many people you need to hire, what should be the qualification of these people, what should be the experience, how much you will pay them, what is the rentals or expense for running this outfit, are there any legal laws and bylaws you need to follow, do you need to get your GST registered, etc., etc. So all of this we have got done in fourth step. And the fifth step today that we discussed was about keep remembering that we work in the legal framework, and the new legal framework and our own framework should be in line with the legal framework. And when we actually looking at so many changes happening in our industry, our business, since we're starting in 2022, must be future proof, at least for next 2 to 3 years. So this is a time when you think about how do you get all the legal aspects ironed out, and you have actually taken care of all the legal issues in terms of ensuring that there is no notice that you can expect from any department. You have all taken care of. For instance, if you are a startup in the food arena, then you have to take the certificate before you start shipping your food out. Similarly, if you are in a cosmetic arena, you have to take your approvals from different licenses, etc., from the government. So there are different legal requirement. And if you are in education, you need to get certified by the government departments that you are certified to provide education, etc. So without all of this, you can't run any of this business. So it applies to everything. Suppose you are in manufacturing, you have to get the manufacturing licenses. If you are in export business, you have to get an export license. So everywhere there is some sort of permission required, and then moment you go through that process because your product, that idea that you have decided fall into that category, you need to follow these legal aspects. And then in order to prepare yourself, prepare your employee base, prepare your market segment, your client base, etc., all this preparation has to be thought through on a piece of paper, and that timeline has to be decided, that how much time you will actually spend in building your business and how much time you will actually start making money so that you can repay your debts. So all of that has to be planned even before you start setting up of your company. And that is a message I want to leave today, that if you are a startup, and it's important to get idea. Let me repeat, it's important to get an idea, but don't implement your idea straight away without doing any analysis. I think because I'm in consulting business, I meet so many people on daily basis who have done that already and spent millions of dollars building their company, only to find later that this product is not sellable anymore. They have actually spent 1 or 2 years in development of that product, but after 1 or 2 years the product is not sellable because market has moved on, and now you are ready to make money, but there is no market for it. But when you started thinking about the product, there was a market, but you spent 1 year in making that product a viable product, and now when you're ready, the market is evaporated because the new technologies have come in, new things have come in, new attitude, new legal framework has come in. So it's very important for all of us to think about what we are getting into, what is a long-term strategy, how we can steer in between, is my business future proof, and all of this has to be thought through even before you start your company. So with this last message, I like to take your leave for today, and I will catch you again tomorrow. Do join back at 3 p.m. tomorrow. We will discuss business and startup related issues. So friends, thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow again. Bye bye.